Hey everyone, we're about to get started. Hope you're enjoying watching from the live stream for Slovenian Cuisine Night, Prešeren Glee Club. Do you want to say something for the live stream really quick? People who are watching from home?
Welcome, and I hope you enjoy the presentation this evening.
Wonderful. That's Dave Styduhar. He is our presenter for tonight, and he's a big expert in Slovenian heritage and cuisine and Prešeren Glee Club. And he is, of course, Slovenian himself. So super exciting. We're going to go ahead and find a good place to set this up. So thanks for your patience with that. I'll be right back.
I know it's not even, yeah. I know.
Alrighty, it's 7:07. Let's start. If you are standing, please sit down. Please wrap up your awesome conversations. We'll get to have some time afterwards for organic conversation and hanging out. My name is Maral Jones. I'm the director here at the Pueblo Heritage Museum. So very much welcome to you all and thank you all for being here. I wanted to bring quick attention to some awesome other upcoming things we have here before I hand it off to our amazing guest speaker. Of course, very much related to this event, we have All Things Slovene, our first Friday event for our next art show in this very room. So all the amazing art you see by Tonio Lefevre will likely all be sold out. We actually have a last Friday event next week for him to actually get some more art out that just popped up today. And so we'll have all the Slovenian art up next month. The next thing is actually the Ladies of the Night walking tour. And that's coming back by popular demand. June 9th through 11th and June 23rd to 25th. Spencer Little, who's amazing, will be guiding that. And so definitely go to our website right now or tonight if you want to come because it'll fill up fast. And there's a discount for members if you want to become a member and aren't one. Lastly, we have the history of the State Hospital, collaboration with the Colorado State Hospital Museum on June 21st. So I want to honor all the time and give that to Dave Styduhar now. He's amazing. I'll let him introduce himself. And thank you all for being here. I'm going to hand it off to Dave.
Dober večer, which is good evening. Dobrodošli, welcome. My name is David Styduhar, and I was asked to make a presentation about Slovenia, a little bit about the cuisine, and a little bit about the Prešeren Glee Club. And a lot of stuff I'm going to talk about, many people already know, but there may be a few things that I may bring up that nobody knows about. So, as an old school teacher, put your rit in the chair, separate toya veliki kubats, and listen. All right? All right. If I can figure out the computer here, we have a map of Slovenia. Slovenia is a very unique country. Its history and its peoples date back thousands of years. It only has 17 miles of coastline. On the northern border are the Julian Alps, and it's bordered on the south by Croatia. The capital city is Ljubljana. And different parts of Slovenia, everybody says that the Slovenian language is very difficult to understand. These are all the different dialects of Slovenia. And if you go from one area to another and you don't understand them, you understand why, because they don't speak the same. Even village to village. I have relatives over there that told me that a village is like 2 miles away. I know that they're from that village by the way they talk. So Slovenia is a very difficult language to learn. There are some people that know a few words. I'm sure when I came out with some of them words, you understood what I said. If you don't, later on, ask me. Okay, Ljubljana is the capital. I was told that from the capital of Ljubljana, there's no place that you can't drive in 2 hours, in over 2 hours, in Slovenia. So if you want to figure out what Slovenia looks like, think of laying Slovenia over the eastern half of Colorado and putting Colorado Springs where the capital would be. In about 2 hours, you can get to the Wyoming border from Colorado Springs. In about 2 hours, you can get to the New Mexico border. And in about 2 hours, you can get to the Kansas border. So that's about how big Slovenia is. I'm going to talk about a couple of areas. One area on the western side of Slovenia is known, has historically been known as Carniola. And I'll bring that term up. There'll be a test later. I'm an old school teacher. So we're going to have a test later. And so on the western half, it's Carniola. On the very eastern part, there's a place called Prekmuri, a region called Prekmuri. And I will bring that up during our talks. I've had the opportunity to travel to Slovenia a couple of times. This is in the capital city of Slovenia. This is called the Dragon's Bridge. The dragons are considered lucky symbols for the city of Ljubljana. It is on their flag that decorates their region. And there are 4 dragons on this bridge, on either side of the bridge. And when you cross it, it brings kind of good luck. So if you ever go to Ljubljana, you definitely want to go visit the Dragon Bridge. This is just a picture of the Ljubljanica River that flows through the capital city of Ljubljana. It also connects with the Adriatic Sea. It's a number of miles from the Adriatic Sea, but every morning fishermen go out to the Adriatic Sea, come in, and at the fish market, which is next to the market area of Ljubljana, they'll bring in fresh fish every morning. And there's a couple of restaurants there. If you want fish for breakfast, you can go visit those restaurants there along that river. And they have little tour boats that take it around and go up and down the river. It's a very placid place. Slovenia is a very beautiful country. Another place that you might want to visit in Slovenia is Prešeren Castle. In the western half of Slovenia is an area that they call the Karst. And in the Karst, there are a lot of caves. And this is the world's largest cave castle. And a little earlier this evening, I was looking through some information, and it is considered one of the 10 best castles in the world. And it goes way back in to the mountain. There's a story that at one time there was a guy that, a local lord, who placed himself in his castle and was being attacked by another outsider group. And they said, well, bombard him and so forth. And they said, well, we can't breach the castle. And they said, no problem. We'll starve him to death. And we'll just wait. So they waited 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, a little bit longer. And this guy's still going along, waving to them and stuff. And they said, now, how can this be? Well, little known to the aggressors, this guy was going out the back end of the cave and to a village behind the mountain, having dinner, visiting his girlfriend, and so on. Eventually, though, they figured out how to kill him, and they watched him at night, and he took a lantern to a window, and they found him there, and they shot a cannon and killed him. But Prešeren Castle is definitely a good place to see. It is located between two large cave systems. One cave system is called Postojna Caves, and the other system is called Scotian Caves. The Postojna Caves, I was told that during World War II, the German army had an entire division in Postojna Cave. They had tanks, cars, trucks, automobiles, munitions. And it goes back, you can take a train drive and go in there, and it takes you back 5 or 6 miles in the cave. And they haven't even found many of the places that are still in the caves. There's still many unexplored areas of Postojna Caves. A little bit farther south, on the other side of Prešeren Castle, are the Scotian Caves. And they are also pretty to visit and see. One of the most beautiful places in all of Slovenia is a place called Bled. Bled goes back to a long ways. They have a museum here that goes back. They found artifacts on this island in Bled that date back 15,000 years. And this island is in Slovenian is called an otok. And it is only accessible by the pletnas that are around there. The pletnas are rowboats. No motorized boats are allowed on this lake. Also in the Olympics, when you see contests of the long rowboats and the contest where there's 6 or 7 people in the boat and so forth, they actually train on this lake. And just to the right of this island, they have grandstands and a course where they have races all year long and training for rowboats for all countries. Looking from the Otok west, you see the castle of Bled. Pretty neat castle. I took a tour of the castle. I found a winery, and you can always smell a winery. And so that led me there. And then I found a print shop there where they had a Gutenberg press. And I was able to print out Lake Bled with my name on it. But I also printed out a poem, a Slovenian hymn by a man by the name of Franz Prešeren. And we'll talk about him a little bit later. This is also from the Otok, from the island church. If you walk up the 99 steps to get to the church and to the museum up there, there's a bell. that you can ring. And it resonates down through the belly. But I'll tell you what, I thought I was a pretty strong guy, but odor's not everything. But I had a heck of a time trying to ring that bell. But you can see the Julian Alps in the background. And the Julian Alps form the northern border of Slovenia with Austria. I found this unique. It was very tranquil there as we were rowing the boats. And I thought this picture of this swan on the lake, it made me think about the composers of Eastern Europe, Mozart, Beethoven, and all the people that composed songs and music that resembled the tranquility of the area that people lived. And the swan was pretty neat in the middle of Lake Bled. Another place I went to visit, many people don't know about this. This is the Lipica Farms in a place called Lipica, and it is where they breed Lipanzer horses. And if you know anything about the Lipanzers, they grow up to be white horses. They're dancing horses. They're usually in Austria or Germany, but they are bred here in Slovenia. And when they're young, they're gray in appearance. And as time goes by, then their coats fade to a white. And then they're shipped off to different places for use across the continent of Europe. Of course, there's always somebody that photobombs your photos and everything. But I took that photo and, petting the horse. But right behind it is a linden tree. The linden tree is the tree of Slovenia. It is found everywhere. I think there's a linden tree over by St. Mary's Church. And it is part of Slovenian history, folklore, culture, and all things Slovenian. So I wanted to throw that in there just to show that tree in the background. And then another photobomb. This is the largest lake in Slovenia. It is called Lake Bohinj, and the tallest mountain in Slovenia is in the background, Mount Triglav. And in the Slovenian language, they don't pronounce the V, it's pronounced like a U. So you pronounce it Mount Triglav. Then, you got to eat. So I said, we'll get to the cuisine part, and a lot of people want to know the cuisine part. And we'll have a few snacks for you a little bit later where you can taste some of the cuisine, Slovenian-style cuisine. This was at a restaurant called Sokol, and down at the bottom is ham. Up to the left is pork, a klobasa. Klobasa simply means sausage. There are different types of klobasa, and this was just a klobasa. Up above there, that dark spot is called krvavica, loosely translated, blood sausage. And then there was turnips, some sauerkraut, and some other things on there. Half of them I couldn't remember. I tried to eat that whole platter, at least taste everything on there. Then the waitress asked if I wanted a dessert, and I found one of the most awesome desserts I've ever tasted. This is called gibanica. It's an 8-layered dessert. Basically, you make it by putting a layer of dough and drizzling the dough with butter. Then you put like a walnut pizza filling, a layer of dough and butter, and a cottage cheese strudel filling, a layer of dough and butter, and an apple strudel filling, a layer of dough and butter, and poppy seed filling. And then you put a layer of dough and butter and repeat those 4 layers again. And before you stick it in the oven, you pour in a pint of heavy cream and bake it. I estimate that piece is about 4,000 calories. So right after I left that restaurant, I found a little gift shop right there in what they call Prešeren Square, the Three Bridges area between the old town Ljubljana and the modern city of Ljubljana. And I found a little cookbook that I brought back home, and in it as a recipe of gibanica. And I taught my very beautiful and lovely sister Nadine, who was standing at the door handing out things and sitting in the back, into making this. So we've tried it a few times and it's really good. Not many people around here make it, but it's well worth it. This patizza, or this gibanica we just made at our house. We were making patizza one time and we had a little left over. And so we tried to make that. That's not meat, those are apples in there, but that's a side view of the gibanica. And a little while back, I turned 70 years old, and she said, well, what do you want for your birthday? You want a birthday cake? I said, no, I want a pan of gibanica. But it's truly a very delicious type of dessert. It comes from the area of Prešeren gibanica, the very eastern part near Hungary. So it has a Hungarian influence on the cuisine of Slovenia. At the same time, not all Slovenians eat klobasi and patizza. They eat other things too. And so I sat down there, and what this is a pork steak with a mushroom sauce. But what intrigued me was the salad. I asked for a mixed salad. There was a little bit of lettuce, not very much, shredded cabbage, pinto beans, tomatoes, some kernel corn, and that's what they served for a salad. Something different. They had, of course, looked like red wine vinegar in that. A little later on, I found out another dressing that is made in Slovenia that they prize as well, and that's this dressing here. It's called bučna oil, and it's made from melons, pumpkins primarily. And you can put this on a salad instead of olive oil or any oil, with a little bit of vinegar or balsamic. And once you eat your salad, if you want to celebrate with a dessert, put a little vanilla ice cream on your plate and spread this bučna oil on the vanilla ice cream, and it's like eating a pumpkin pie. So it's quite a unique style of food. And my mom, every fall, she'd always say, hey, let's go get some karuja. And for people that know what karuja is, that's corn. And some of the people in the central area of Prešeren Square, the Three Bridges, they have different stands and they sell different things. And this was in the fall, it was in September, so the crops were coming in. And so they were roasting ears of corn. And I just thought this unique to take a picture. The first year I ever went there, this was a hotel I stayed at. I thought I died and went to heaven. If you've ever had a Dutch lunch, it was like eating a Dutch lunch. You had ham, salami, there were small klobasis and potatoes, and then a traditional Eastern European Slovenian dressing, that red stuff in the lower right-hand corner called avar. And it's made from peppers like pimentos, and they make it, and you have to acquire a taste for it. If you're thinking ketchup, it definitely isn't ketchup. But I enjoyed the breakfast, and many people in Slovenia have a diet of cold cuts in the morning. Slices of ham, salami, cheeses, and so on. And even in the evening. This is the famous klobasa. Slovenia is known for this type of sausage, and its name is Kranjski klobasa. They have like a copyright or a patent on it. and basically only they can make it. I bought this at a restaurant there, an outdoor restaurant in Ljubljana, and you could get one klobasi or you could get two. They don't make klobasi sandwiches. They don't put onions and grilled onions and sauerkraut on. They give you a klobasi, they slice it up for you. They give you a big spoon of coarse spicy mustard and a big spoon of a kind of a liquefied horseradish. Horseradish is an important staple in the Slovenian culture. And then they give you a piece of bread. If you want to make a sandwich out of it, you can, but they don't give you anything else to go with it. Basically, you eat the sausage, you dip it in the horseradish and or the mustard, and then you have a little piece of bread to follow. This is a picture of a local sausage maker here in Pueblo. On the top, you see Krajinska style klobasa. And a meat market here in town called Frank's Meat Market is probably the most famous for making it. If you ever go buy it and buy like a 10-pound box, on the side it will say Krajinski style klobasa. They cannot say Krajinski klobasa. So it's Krajinski style klobasa. And also when I talk about Carniola, the western half of Slovenia, when you look up the word Krajinski, it simply means Carniolan. So it's indicative of this area. And the people of Slovenia pride themselves on it. They have festivals and feasts that celebrate it. We were in the village of Skofja Loka, driving to another location, and came across this sign. And actually, we drove past where they were having this festival, and they had 3 large tents, like the Jidong tent out at the fairgrounds. They had 3 large tents set up, and they were planning hundreds of people, if not 1,000 people or more, to come to this Krajinski sausage festival. And klobasa, depending on the present past, perfect participle, all that English stuff. Sometimes it's spelled Klobasi, Klobase, and in singular form, Klobasa, klobasa. And I see a lot of people saying, "Ooh, this is something." I had an older sister who has passed away, but when she was dating her husband-to-be, she says, "Oh, yeah, come over, we'll have you some blood sausage." He says, "Really?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "What blood sausage? What's that?" She says, "Oh, when you cut it and bite into it, the blood runs down your teeth." and to that day, he would not, to the day he died, he would not eat blood sausage. But blood is used to make it. It's a very delicious sausage. We around here use rice. The people that make it around here use rice as part of the filling. In Slovenia, they will also use buckwheat as a filling. And there's different spices in it. This was an evening meal for me, one evening. And again, if you're interested, you can go out to Frank's Meat Market, and I think they can fix you up with some delicious krvavica, otherwise known as blood sausage. This, I just did melisa. Our family has always used melisa. It's kind of like a mint leaf. It was used by my family to make blood sausage, my grandparents and my parents. We use it in our house. Anytime we make a meatball, melisa goes in. Anytime we make a meatloaf, melisa goes in. Anytime we make a spaghetti sauce, melisa goes in. Sometimes if we scramble eggs, we'll even sprinkle melisa in there. It grows wild in my backyard amongst the grapevines. And so every year I harvest it, I hang it in the garage and dry it. Then I strip the leaves and run them through a sifter that you can see there on the right, an old-fashioned sifter. And it makes like little flakes, and you can just sprinkle it on. I keep it in the refrigerator. to keep it fresh. And sometimes people come over, I'll open up for them and they'll smell it and say, oh man, that smells wonderful. This is a meal we met after we went to the Lipanzer Farms. We stopped at a little house where they had a black kitchen, and I'll explain the black kitchen in a minute. But this is what they serve us. And what you have here is prosciutto. The Italians call it prosciutto. It's air-dried pork. It's an air-dried kind of ham. And they also eat a lot of it. The prosciutto, when you walked in, you got the handouts that I gave. On the culinary map of Slovenia, if you look way to the left, and it's hard to see, I realize, but if you look way to the left, you'll see like there's a hind quarter of ham. And that's the area of Slovenia where they make prosciutto. They get winds that come in off the Adriatic Sea. There's some rolling hills there. And a lot of the people that make prosciutto will set it out where the winds will wind dry it and cure it. And then they slice it very thin to eat. And just to the left, you see a little blueberry branding, kind of, a blueberry liquor. Blueberries grow wild in Slovenia. Every spring, they take blueberries and they crush them and make them into a blueberry drink. I'm making some at home right now. I'm using the short method. About a year ago, I was able to purchase a cookbook from Slovenia, and they gave me 2 recipes. One recipe to make blueberry liqueur, and another recipe to make a drink called šmrkovec. And šmrkovec is made from the tips of a spruce tree. When you leave tonight, go out and look at the spruce tree, or if you know of any spruce trees or you have them, there will be a little green growth coming out. You take that little green growth, you clip it off, you pack it in a bottle, you put some sugar in it, you pack it in a bottle, you put some sugar in it, pack it all the way up, set it out in the sun for a couple, 3 weeks. The sun will dissolve the sugar into a syrup. The syrup will meld with the spruce tips, and you have an excellent tasting syrup. In Slovenia, they use the syrup for coughs. You can also take this syrup and meld it with an alcohol. And so I melded with an alcohol. Since I've been making this, I haven't had a cough at all. But you'll see some pictures coming up of making šmrkovec. But after a day of touring, it's good to sit down and have a glass of beer. This was the beer that I found in that part of Slovenia. They also have another beer called Laško that they use or that they drink. But the castle of Bled is in the background. But really why I went to this restaurant was to have this. Crema Regina, or kremznita, as it's called. It's a cream cake. If you take your fork and lay it on the top, you don't have to put any pressure. It'll go right down through. It rivals gibanica. And in that cookbook we have a recipe online, Facebook and so forth. I'm online with a place called Slovenska kuhinja, Slovenian kitchen. And there have been people that have tried to make this kremznita, and they have a heck of a time making it. It's very difficult to make, but it's very delicious in the process. So if you ever get to Lake Bled, you need to go have some kremznita. Also, we had a tour guide take us through. We stopped at a park, a national park in Slovenia. This park is called Mašun. There are a lot of wild bear in Slovenia. There are a lot of wild boars in Slovenia. There are some deer. And there are also like foxes or a wolf type of coyote that are found around there. And in this forest, they are found. So we went there and there was a restaurant. So we went in the restaurant and had lunch. My cousin had bear steak. Very well decorated, very tasty. I had wild boar. And then for dessert, they gave us a little dessert, kind of like a strudel, but they put bear paw prints in, deer heads, different things like this. It's a neat little restaurant called Mashun. We came down from Mashun, and my maternal grandparents are from the city of Kinizhak, Slovenia. And so these are my cousins here. I have the husband of another cousin who's photobombed us in the lower right corner. But the family there is called the Godina family. His mother was born Marincic, which was my mother's maiden name. And they still live in the same house that my grandfather was born. Actually, this is an addition to the main house. His mother and her husband live in the old house. And I found out about the old house. There was a lady by the name of Dobin that once sent a postcard from Slovenia, and she circled this house and said, "This is your grandparents' house." And so I made it a point to go there. I still stay in contact with this family. This is the Godina family. Aleš Godina standing with me. His sons to the left are Blaj and Aliaj, and his wife is Matea. And after eating all that big meal at Mashun, we stopped at their home. They laid out a spread for us as well. Okay, here you have the two boys. They play without music. Accordion player, guitar player. They play without music. They serenaded us. I have a few videos of that, but I didn't include them in the show. We stopped to eat here. They had prosciutto soaked in wine to enjoy. They also had some regular prosciutto and some sausage, homemade sausage that tasted very much like salami. And then this was their patizza. Everybody who makes patizza, their patizza is the best. So our patizza is the best, their patizza is the best. If you make it, it's the best, regardless of how you make it, how you roll it, how you stretch it, what ingredients you put in. If you make patizza, it's the best. And most people around Pueblo know what patizza is. This was last year's patizza at my house. Every year, in memory of our mother, my sister and her son Nick come over the day after Thanksgiving, and we work off turkey by making patizzas. We made 5 pans of patizza and 1 bundt cake pan of patizza to share. And we might have a little taste of that for you later on, if you like patizza. This is a dish I make. My mom called it meshica. A lot of people make a similar dish called ješprej. But meshica in Slovenian means a blending or a mixture. My mom used ham, pigtails, klobasi. She put potatoes in here, pinto beans, sauerkraut. And then I also take a frying pan, put some oil in there, and put barley in it, and zabelet the barley, fry the barley to a dark brown before I pour it in the stew. It takes a good afternoon to cook this stew. I have 1 package left, and I'll probably eat it fairly soon. I also made a dish called sverki from this cookbook that I showed you. Sverki is simply chicharrones. And you can throw this sverki in ješprej or my meshica or any stews or meals like this, and it's just simply fried fat. and I fried it with a little onion and apple. And then I saved the grease to use later for cooking, and put the snarky in a jar, and then I can sprinkle it on my meshitza when I did that. This is the Schmurkovitz I was telling you about. And I was out checking the spruce tree earlier, and the tips aren't quite ready to pick, but as soon as they come, I'm going to scavenge this tree out there.
I gave him permission.
And Baral gave me permission. But you pack it, you set it out in the sun, it develops into a syrup. And then what I do is drain the syrup. Then I fill the jars with the spruce tips up with either Slivovitz or vodka and let it soak for another week. Then strain them and then add the syrup as it goes. It's very delicious. And that's just kind of that. Some people want to know about the Prešeren Glee Club in Pueblo. There's been a club here in Pueblo that was founded in 1906. A simple singing society of Slovenian men. Slovenian people have known to have musical talents. They play the harmonica. We call it an accordion. In fact, just last week, they had an accordion festival around Lake Bled. They had over 200 accordion players playing one song around Lake Bled just here a week or so ago. This gentleman here is a guy I pretty much consider, this is my opinion, the father of Slovenia. His name is Franz Prešeren, or Franza Prešeren. He lived from 1800 to 1849. This is a statue of him in the square at Ljubljana, and this is a picture of Prešeren. And again, I took this, here's a choir singing below the statue of Prešeren. And then again, some guy photobombed this really good picture of the statue of Prešeren. From there, we went to the town where he lived, and I went to the museum. Is actually the apartment he lived in is made into a museum. A picture of Franza Prešeren. Again, that's me in the front. Up at the top, you can barely see it, but in front of his name, it has DR. He was a doctorate. He had a doctorate. And how he became famous in Slovenia is at one time they were part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And like the old Star Trek, they were being assimilated by the Germans and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And he had a tremendous love for Slovenia. And he says, how can we protect ourselves? And somebody told him, why don't you write poetry? Why don't you write sonnets? Therefore, preserving the language of your country. And he said, I will. And that's what he did. And when he wrote this poetry and these sonnets, they were about Slovenia and the love of his country and the love of the people that lived in his country. And it's easy to see why the early fathers that came here in Pueblo, the early Slovenians, chose a name for a singing club called the Prešeren Glee Club. This is a bust of Prešeren. This is a statue in the town of Krain. It's where he lived. They called him Dr. Fig because he would carry figs around in his coat pockets and hand them to the little kids. And that was his nickname there. He was a lawyer by trade and wrote sonnets and poetry on the side. This is his gravesite in Krain. This is kind of what the scenery looks like around a lot of Slovenia. So I took it and compared it to the countryside around the Prešeren Glee Club in Rye, Colorado. Back in 1910, negotiations were made to purchase about 12 acres in Rye, Colorado, so that the Prešeren Glee Club, the singing society, and their families could have picnics and celebrate. And they then proceeded in 1928 to start building a house there. We've given that house a name called Prešerenov Dom. And in 1929, they built that house. And that house has been there now for 94 years. It's a 3-level home, has a full kitchen and dining room on the bottom floor, has a dance floor on the second floor and a full dormer floor as big as the dance floor in the upper third floor. We have a creek that runs through the property. We have an outdoor patio that you can see there. And we have picnics and conduct meetings there. And some people ask to have weddings, things like that. But you can see why the early founders of the Prešeren Glee Club chose this site, because of the mountains and the similarity to Slovenia. This is a monument that we put there to celebrate 100 years of the Prešeren Glee Club. Every year we have a picnic. Actually, we have two. And we have one coming up in June. And we have some very awesome ladies who will bake apple and cheese strudels. The last few years, they've only done like 16 pans. I've seen as many as 30 pans of strudel. And if you've ever tried to make strudel, that's an awful lot. It takes a lot of work, but they're very, very delicious. At the picnic, we'll have a couple guys come around and play their button box accordions. And then some of our older members enjoy a beverage up there at the picnic. This is what one of our picnics look like. We have horseshoe contests. We have a dance on the dance floor. We have duck races for the little kids down the creek, and plenty of beverages and a lot of kielbasa to eat. At times, for our members picnic, we put together a pig roast. And what you see here is a couple samples of pigs. They used to do 4 or 5 pigs and even a goat for certain picnics and family. And we've kind of done away with it because not many people come and eat it anymore, and not a lot of people want it. But sometimes you got to work at it all night. But anyway, that's what I have to say. I kind of used up all my time. They're preparing some things here. Does anyone have any questions of me, or comments or criticisms? Because I know there's some critics sitting over here. Yes, ma'am.
Do you speak Slovenian?
Nič.
fluently?
Nič pa špile po grensku. No, I don't speak the language.
No, not at all.
No, I understood things like Čistana po glavo, you want to hit on the head. Or when I was young, my mom would say, David, would smega sprida jut. And I'd say, what's that mean, Mom? And she'd say, first comes laughing, then comes crying. I said, I don't understand. She said, yeah, you watch. And I'd be messing around in the kitchen, playing with her apron. Pretty soon I'd get a backhand, or I'd get hit with a spoon. I'd sit on the floor and start crying. She'd say, see, I told you. First comes laughing, then comes crying. My mom was very fluent in the Slovenian language. She also could write and read the Slovenian language. She tried to teach us that, and we were too involved in our own lives to do that. But I do remember a few phrases. Joe?
Tell them about the Black Kitchen.
The Black Kitchen, I forgot to tell you that. Back in Slovenia, they didn't have fireplaces to cook dinner. The fireplace was in the house. There was no chimney. And so the Black Kitchen was, the house smelled like burned wood, smoke. And they would burn that on one side. They would cook on one side and cook their stews and their pots and everything. And then on the other side, sometimes they'd have ceramic pieces that actually the heat radiated through, and that's how they heated their homes in Slovenia. And the Black Kitchens were quite a deal, and there's still some examples of that over there if you ever get to that point. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is maybe, I don't know if it's sensitive, but I was looking at the map of Slovenia, and there it is by Serbia and Croatia and places that have experienced terrible war and turmoil. How has Slovenia managed to not be involved with all of that?
That's because they're tough and nobody messes with them. Actually, when the war broke out in 1990, when Slovenia declared their independence in December of 1990, Croatia tried to invade them and take them over. They beat the snot out of the Croats. So then the Croats went and invaded Serbia. And the Serbians beat the snot out of the Croats, so they turned their attention on Bosnia and Herzegovina, and that's what created Kosovo and so forth. But yeah, the Slovenians, for some reason, they tried to do that, but they just couldn't because the Slovenians were too tough. Maybe a little bit too modernized, too knowledgeable, but the Slovenians just don't, get out. We don't need you.
Thank you. Don't forget the love. There's love.
That's right, and there's a couple of shirts here if you're interested. It's the only country with love in the name. Slovenia. And so if you're interested, there's some people here that could probably sell you those shirts. If you like the picnics, I would like to personally invite you to the June 25th picnic at the Prešeren Glee in Rye, Colorado. It is a public picnic, but by invitation only. So if you would like to go, come see me. I will give you the ticket or the invite to get in. Okay? At the same time, I'd like to thank the Pueblo Heritage Center and Museum for helping me set up this slideshow, especially Maral Jones here. And she would like to say that their gift shop will be open. There's also a Slovenian exhibit if you haven't visited it over there. There are some things up here on the table if you'd like to come and view them. And at the same time, if you have it in your heart, maybe make a donation to the Pueblo Heritage Museum so that they can continue to provide displays like this of all the people in the city of Pueblo and the county of Pueblo.
Thank you so much for bringing attention to that. And we will be open until 9 or so. So if you want to stay and talk, come into the gift shop where we actually have tons of handcrafted art, jewelry by actually local Slovenian American artists. You'll actually see that in display case, as well as art and cards and much, much more I'm not even mentioning. And also you'll see this sign with Lucky. You see Lucky saying, "Keep heritage alive, nay." And it says you can donate in person on our website or on theheritagecenter.us or even on our new PayPal me link that you'll see here. And it's very easy to do on our website, on our kiosk with one of us here or in the gift shop, and of course by good old-fashioned cash back there or there. Ask that humbly because we're definitely in a space of growing and finding a new way to expand as a museum and improve to the next level. So I do ask that the suggested donation for tonight, again, not required at all, we'll honor where everyone's at, but suggested is $5 to $25 per person for the event. There's a lot of energy that went into this, including, of course, the delicious samples. So please give a round of applause now for our amazing speakers.
And thank you for being such good students, sitting and listening. And as a treat to listening to me, we have a little bit of our homemade pizza and some kielbasa sticks, which are like eating the real kielbasa. So enjoy yourselves. If you have any questions, come up here and ask me. If you want tickets to the Prešeren picnic, come see me and wander through the Slovenian exhibit in the hall. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, and we'll go ahead and start. The line will start right here. So this is the line.
Help yourself. No. About 7 years ago, the company
And I was late, but I'm looking at here.
All right, everyone. That concludes our event. Have an awesome, awesome night, and we'll see you soon. We have lots of events coming up. In fact, I'll let some of you know about that now. So we have our Ladies of the Night tour that is happening the weekend of June 9th through 11th. And we will be having that here starting at the Pueblo Heritage Museum. So I'm going to just share that here in a moment on my screen. We'll also be having other events in June, like our first Friday event for the Slovenian Heritage, and that will actually be all Slovenian artists. So first I'll go ahead and share my screen so you can see that. Perfect. So our first Friday event, All Things Slovene, is going on June 2nd with all Slovenian artists. You can see all our events on our Facebook as well as our website, actually. So here is our Ladies of the Night tour. That will be June 9th through 11th and June 23rd to 25th. And Spencer Little will be presenting this awesome tour. It is $15 or $12 to members. So on our website, you do have to actually go here to get tickets. So you'll get tickets here on our website from that link. This is our Square site for our point of sales, and you actually click here and get those tickets. If you're a member, if you scroll down, you'll actually see the code for members are here. And if you are interested in becoming a member, just use that code and we'll send you an invoice to become a member. So here you go. And lastly, we will have our next Heritage Night, which is, our next Heritage Night will be about the Colorado Mental Health State Hospital, and that will be on Wednesday, June 21st. Thanks all. We hope to see you at some of our events. And this is the State Hospital flyer that didn't show a moment ago. It's on Wednesday, June 21st. Have a great, great night, everyone.